In the previous part, Choi, a fat high schooler, got rejected by his crush. But that's not all. An old man who at first glance looks like a beggar took him to a strange place called the world of the yokai, where Choi was tested to see if he has the blood of a goblin running through his veins. Turns out he does, and this test led to him losing his stubborn weight. Afterwards, all of the yokais present voted that Choi was no longer human, but he is now one of them. Before we get on to the video, do me a favor and hit the like button, it greatly helps out the channel. Now back to the video. Mangti, with a serious expression, explained to Choi that since his name is now included in this peninsula's yokai, no one can capture or harm him without valid reason. Choi was still in a daze. He hadn't fully grasped everything yet, and even though he was thankful for the protection, he still expressed that he wanted to go home. The white-haired girl was starting to get frustrated. She let out a sigh of annoyance, questioning if Choi was pretending to be stupid or if he was really stupid. She crossed her arms, and with an expression that screamed superiority, she explained that Choi is now recognized as a yokai, and a yokai under the age of 500 cannot enter the human world if he's not recognized for the ability to conceal his identity. This surprised Choi. He turned his head to Mangti, saying he isn't the type of person to cause trouble. He explained that he hasn't gotten into a fight with anyone, and he lived his life quietly. Mangti thought about what Choi just told him, and he says that Choi doesn't seem to understand what he was trying to say, so he has no other choice. This statement by Mangti confused Choi, and he stared at him with a confused look. Suddenly Mangti released his aura with the intent to kill. Choi's body reacted on its own, and he jumped back. Mangti approached Choi with the white-haired girl closely behind him. He questioned if that demonstration was enough for Choi to get a grasp of his situation. Choi sat down, and he stared at his hand. In that moment he thought he just flinched, but his body suddenly jumped a few yards back. Mangti explained that it's fine that Choi still considered himself to be human, but his goblin blood has been awakened, and the monstrous power of the goblin tribe is by far the best among yokais. He expressed with a serious gaze that even if Choi is considered a baby who just woke up, his strength easily surpasses that of an ordinary human, and an ordinary human's body can be easily damaged with the slightest touch the wrong way. Choi lowered his gaze, saying he understands. However, in a disappointing tone, he explained that the fact he has to wait 500 years is ridiculous. Mangti interrupted him, saying he only has to wait for half a year. Choi's eyes lit up, and he questioned if that's really the case. Mangti told Choi the 500 age limit is a law made by the current crown king, but the yokai king's reign is about to end. He then explained that 666 years ago all the yokais could enter and leave the human world as they pleased, and most would leave the world of the yokais to hunt or make humans their playthings, and in the case of most humans, all they can do is run or rely on strong human-friendly yokai tribes. Fear and worship, that was the attitude humans had towards yokais 666 years ago. But this all changed when the festival came to an end 666 years ago. The newly crowned king, for some reason, didn't like the humans' attitude towards the yokais, and on the day of his coronation, he inscribed a new law with the blood of the yokais he defeated. Because of that law, yokais are prohibited from harming humans, prohibited from revealing themselves, and getting close to humans. Thanks to that law, humans today are not afraid of yokais. Rather, it's like they have forgotten yokais existed. They merely think of yokais as a figment of their imaginations. But even that won't last long. 6 months from now, the current king's reign will end, and the rule he made will return to a blank slate. And on that day, the moment the sun sets in the human world, it will be a moment almost all the yokais have been waiting for. On this night, the residents of the entire yokai world will rush into the human world and awaken the fear and reverence humans had forgotten. This situation dawned on Choi, and he now realized that his loved ones are in danger. Mangti explained that Choi has the freedom to wait for the 6 months doing nothing, or he could harness his power while waiting, so on that night he can get out quickly and help his loved ones. Choi asked Mangti where he can learn to harness his power, and if he managed to get his power under control. He questioned how powerful he will have to be considered the strongest among the yokais. Mangti took an interest in Choi, because in that moment of asking the question, he looked determined. Mangti stroked his beard, questioning what made Choi so determined all of the sudden. Choi clenched his fist, and with a determined look, he expressed that his goal is to keep the yokais from touching humanity. It was impossible for Choi to make predictions of what will happen in 6 months' time when the yokais enter the human world, but it's clear that the world will become more dangerous. At least Choi wanted to have the power to protect those who are important to him. Mangti observed Choi's body, and he says he doesn't know how strong Choi can become. The goblin blood running through Choi's veins is quite powerful, but he wasn't sure how this blood would compare to a pure blood goblin. But even if Choi can only use half of a goblin's power, Mangti was certain that no yakai would dare try to harm a human close to Choi. Mangti expressed that the chances are low, but Choi will never know unless he tries, and if he ends up winning the festival, he will be able to create new laws for the yakais. The white-haired girl interrupted them, saying Mangti shouldn't be making dumb remarks. She approached, asking if Mangti really believes someone like Choi could survive the festival. Mangti, realizing that he hadn't introduced the white-haired girl, decided that it's time he does. He told Choi that the girl's name is Seolwa, and just like him, she will be participating in the festival as the representative of her tribe. Seolwa tucked her hair behind her ear, and with an annoyed look she rudely questioned if there is a point to Choi knowing her name, when they won't be seeing each other again. Besides, she expressed that she didn't come here to introduce herself to someone like Choi. Seolwa was irritated for some reason, and she asked Mangti about her qualifications test for entering the human world. She expressed that if Mangti tells her something else, she will get really angry. Hearing of the qualifications test surprised Choi, and he turned his gaze to Mangti hoping for an explanation. Mangti told Choi that Seolwa is in the same position as him. She is considered young for a yakai, yet she wants to enter the human world. With an irritable look, he says he put off dealing with Seolwa because he had a lot of work to do, but she stuck by him and continued to ask him to take the qualifications test. Choi was surprised by this. He thought Mangti said yakais can only enter the human world if they are over 500 years old, or when the king's reign ends in half a year. Mangti then expressed that Choi should watch Seolwa as she takes her test, since there is a lot he can learn from her. Seolwa spoke proudly, questioning why she had to take the qualifications test in the first place, when she is better than most yakais among the age of 500 when it comes to disguise, or yakai force. Mangti expressed that her talents is what makes it difficult to judge her qualifications, and is the reason why he can't do it so hastily. In order for a yakai to not be discovered among humans, it requires not only basic skills, but also self-control and patience. Seolwa crossed her arms, and she expressed that she understands, but she hoped Mangti isn't going to use this as an excuse to not accept her. Mangti started walking away, and he expressed that if he had thought of denying her qualifications, he wouldn't have called her here. He explained that since the festival is just around the corner, and 6 months from now the existing law will become void, he has been too busy to pay attention to Seolwa. But a fortunate thing has happened. There couldn't be a better opportunity to see if Seolwa can blend in with humans without any issues. He explained that Choi here is a child in the yakai world, who is no different from a human, and for judging Seolwa's qualifications there couldn't be a better test. Seolwa's eyes widened with surprise. She was starting to realize where Mangti was going with this, and she asked him to wait. Mangti turned his head slightly and gave Seolwa until the end of the month to teach Choi the basics of being a yakai, including transformation magic. He says 1 month from now if Choi has made some level of progress, then he will approve the both of them as being qualified to go to the human realm. This angered Seolwa. She pointed at Choi, angrily questioning what she could teach him in just 1 month. She expressed that if Mangti doesn't want to allow her to go to the human world, then he should have just said so. Mangti started stroking his beard again, and he says Seolwa can look at this however she likes. Seolwa started shaking nervously as Mangti explained that if she doesn't teach Choi, she can wait for the 6 months, since leaving a few months early wouldn't make a difference. Mangti took out his pouch, and he explained that whatever Seolwa decides to do is up to her. And as the pouch wrapped around him, he expressed that if it was him, he would try to teach Choi, since there's a good possibility that Choi can learn a lot in a month. And Choi with his goblin blood has already proven that he is talented. Afterwards his pouch wrapped itself around him, and it disappeared. Choi and Seolwa watched closely as Mangti disappeared. After Mangti had disappeared, Seolwa, knowing it's futile to ask, still wanted to ask Choi a question. But she was interrupted by Jeogugwi's voice, who was wondering where Mangti went to. Choi's eyes widened with shock, and his mouth dropped as he watched Jeogugwi stand up in front of him. Jeogugwi expressed that Mangti shouldn't have left, since his fight with Choi isn't over yet. Seolwa, with an irritated look, stared at Jeogugwi, saying because of a lowly guy like Jeogugwi, yakais are insulted by humans. Seolwa's statement angered Jeogugwi, and he tried squashing Seolwa with his hand, like a bug. Choi became nervous, however Seolwa remained calm. Unlike humans, where racial superiority and inferiority doesn't exist, there is a big difference between race and bloodline among the yakais. The existence of gaps in the average potential and the unique abilities and powers possessed by each race creates distinct classes among the yakais. And now that the pure goblins have disappeared, opinions are divided as to which bloodline has the best potential in the Korean peninsula. But if one were to put aside their ego, quite a few would reluctantly come up with the same answer. Those wicked beasts, foxes who hide their 9 tails, are said to be the closest to the pinnacle of the Korean peninsula. Suddenly chains appeared around Geogugri's body, stopping his attack on Seolwa, and with a wicked smile Seolwa looked up at Geogugri, questioning why he looked so angry. Seolwa's abilities had activated, her eyes were glowing and she was showing one of her tails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video then hit the like button.